In matters sexual, both men and women as a group tend to misuse it. It's a simple, straightforward, pleasurable experience. To overlay it with too much psychological baggage, to attach too much irrelevant significance to it is a huge mistake. It accounts, I think, for the impotency that you find in most men after a certain age and the total loss of interest in a lot of women. Most of the friends that are our age, I describe as living lives of quiet desperation. Marriages that are together out of habit. Janet and I haven't lost one of the really big binding agents in a marriage. We're still sexually attracted to each other. I've got a son who lies, says, Dad, you do it more times in a week than I do it in a month.
No matter how good sex is, it becomes very routine. We tried to think of different ways to make it more interesting. Take it in the car, do anything. It needed a pep up. It needed something to really pep it up.
I had such an abiding interest in sex. The idea of committing yourself to just one person and being with that person exclusively for the rest of your life didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Our relationship's been open for 20 years. We went into it with a considerable history behind us already. We'd already had 30 years of marriage. And if our marriage wasn't good at the end of that 30 years, opening our marriage would have just brought it apart completely. I think it just made it stronger.
The thing that opened our marriage was an old boyfriend of mine wrote us saying that he and his wife had opened their marriage, and so he was looking for friends of long standing that he'd like to connect with.
I think I said okay in the beginning because, like all men, I'd had miles and miles of fantasies about almost every reasonably attractive woman I ever saw. This was going to give me permission to act out my fantasies. Then I began to wonder whether the price was worth it or not. And I told her what she decided to do was her business. And of course, she got out there, and I had a few days by myself and to contemplate what was going to go on. And I panicked. I hopped in our Rover automobile and drove from Springfield, Illinois to Solvang, California in 2.5 days to save her. I got there, I was too late. And by the time I got there, it really didn't matter. I'd reasoned it out for myself. Open relationships are the worst thing in the world for an insecure marriage. I mean, you really have to love each other. You really have to be secure with each other. You have to be confident that the other person is not going to do you harm in one way or another. And you have to be reasonably certain that they're not going to run off permanently with somebody else.